Hi, welcome back to Creations by Chris, and this is the final video of making shoes at home. Now I want you to know I've been making shoes for 20 years, and this is the very first pair of shoes that I made at home. Now remember, in part 2 we did the uppers. Now at this stage we're going to be adding the soles onto the shoe, but before we even do that you may want to step back and you look at your shoes and see what embellishments you want to add to them. Now I did a special embellishment, and I'm going to show you how I did it and how I attached it as well. Now what I'll be using here is called a beveler, and what it has is inside is a blade that slides in, and it has a curved angle on the side of it. And what it's used for is because the leather area here needs to be thin, almost paper thin, around this area in here. You leave the thickness where of course where the shank is going to be at, but you want it around the edges here as thin as possible. But you want to be careful because you don't want to cut it so thin that you actually tear the leather. And all you need to do is put pressure on it, as I'm doing here, and you glide it around the side of it, and it takes off the leather and it thins it out. And you can continue to do that until you get the leather almost paper thin, because this is the portion that's going to fit under the heel on the underside. Glue has set, so we glued on the heel, and then we use this piece here, and this piece is called the shank. And remember, for the added support I put a screw in the heel also, so I use my trusty dandy Black & Decker screw gun and screwed in the tip or the screw into the heel. So everything is nice and sturdy at this point. Now the only thing we need to do now is of course adhere the leather sole onto the shoe. But before we do that, we're going to do something else. Now this shoe is a striped shoe, and it's going to have straps on it, also ankle straps. But you really didn't think Chris was going to leave the shoe like this. No, we need some embellishment. And what I've done, I'll show you. I took a piece of the fabric because I made a dress from this fabric also. And what I did, one second, I'll show you. This is the fabric that I use, and I cut out a strip of the yellow, the center black and white stripe piece I cut out, as well as the green and the pink. I cut it out in a strip, and because this fabric has a lot, the way the direction the weave is. Now, as I stated earlier when I showed you how I was making the shoes, that this was an embellishment I used, and I would show you how to do it. But basically, this is 3 pieces of fabric. This is one layer. This is the second layer. And this is the third layer. What I did, I took this fabric here and I cut out strips. Such as this here. A strip of the fuchsia and the green. I cut out the strip of the black and white that's here, and then a strip of the gold fabric. So I cut against the weave, and I actually took an old toothbrush. Even your old toothbrushes you can save, because you can use them for many different projects. And all I did was just pull away on the edges of the fabric so that it would actually fringe. And notice there, it's just beginning to fringe a little bit. I had to pull it up close so you can get a better view. It's getting that fringe effect. And what I did with that fringe, I took all 3 layers of those strips and laid them on top of each other once I fringed the fabric on both sides. And this is what I did. Now you wonder, what am I going to do with this piece? Well, I'm going to take the shoe again before I adhere the sole onto it. I'm going to take this French piece and I'm going to lay it across the top part of the shoe just to give it a little extra oomph. And I'll show you when it's completed. Now here, I just took needle and thread and I'm just slip stitching the design onto the shoe all the way around until I get to the edge here. And let's just kind of double down on the stitch. And that's done. And that's all sewed onto the shoe. And now we're going to glue the sole onto the shoe. Now one of the things you will remember, we've already cut the sole for the bottom of the shoe here. And we've already have taken our beveler and we've already sliced it in this area here because you want that kind of thin, because you want that to be able to really get up into the heel area at the bottom that you're going to be gluing it to. So we've taken that and we've thinned it out as much as we can with this device here. Now sometimes the leather can be a little smooth and you want to take the rough side of the leather. That's the portion that's going to be glued onto the bottom part of the shoe. The smooth part of the leather sole is going to be on the outside. And sometimes you may have to rough this up, and you can use steel wool to do it, or you can take a pair of old scissors and just scrape it a little bit to make sure it's just nice and rough. And what that's going to do is going to allow the glue to adhere better onto the leather portion, onto the fabric portion sole of your shoe. And now that we've done that, we're going to flip the shoe over and we're just going to place it on top. And what we're doing here, we're trying to make sure that the sole is going to lay nice flat and even on the shoe. We can flip it over and take another look at it. And then what we're going to do, we're going to take, you can take a piece of chalk, or if you have a piece of soap laying around, you know how you use the soap and it gets really thin and then you throw these little pieces out. Don't throw them out because they make excellent markers when you want to mark on fabric or whatever the case may be. And because it's just soap, it comes right on out. And then you're going to just mark around the shoe area like so. And then what this allows you to do, so that when you take it off, you'll be able to see where your markings is, exactly where you need to place the glue, so that it stays within that marking. And then you're going to brush the glue onto the sole of the shoe also, and let it set for a couple of seconds, and then you're going to place it on your shoe. But even before you do that, you want to take the edges of your sole, and you want to use you can use black polish, or what I do is I'll take a simple magic marker like so, and I like to just color the edges in on the sides. And you can do that all the way around. It just gives it a nice look when you do that. Let it set and dry a minute, and all I use is a Sharpie. And I used a thick Sharpie in order to do that. Or, as I said before, if you have black shoe polish laying around the house, you can use that also just to edge it up some. It gives it a nice look. So when you're working with this, you want to make sure you put a generous portion of glue on the sole, which is the leather part, and also on the shoe itself. And you put the glue all the way around within the area that you traced already, and down here in the heel area as well. So I'm just going to let it set up and let it kind of set for a little bit, and then we're going to place the sole onto the heel itself. Okay, so I got everything glued, and now I'm going to take the sole, which is the bottom portion of the shoe, and place it on top of the upper portion of the shoe, and we glue both sides. Now you can start with the tip once you get it in place and maneuver it, because the leather is going to stretch a little bit. Sometimes I start on the back end, but it's perfectly up to you as to which end you want to start on first. But let's start off by placing it on the tip, and you really want to make sure you get those edges in place. That's really the main thing you want to do, is make sure those edges are in place. I like to press it with my hand around the edges just to make sure I got a nice secure bond. And it looks as though we do. And sometimes what I'll do is I'll take a couple of clothespins, just your regular clothespins. In order for to make sure my edges are nice and tight here, I'll place a clothespin on it. And I'll do that on both sides. Now we're going to let this set. It usually takes about a half an hour, but I like to let it set for an hour or two. Sometimes I even let it set overnight, because the last thing we need to do is take the inner sole and place inside the shoe. And the purpose of putting the inner sole in is so it can give you some more cushion. And we remember, we've already taken the inner soles and we covered it with the fabric of the dress that we've made for these pair of shoes. And all we did was place the fabric over the inner sole and just sew it straight around. And this is going to be glued, and it's going to slide right inside the shoe, and we'll show you that in a moment. One of the nice things about making shoes for yourself is that you're doing a mold of your own foot, so it's more comfortable. And one of the little added things I like to do, because the screw that's in here, even though it's flat and it's flush, for added comfort for me, I'm going to take a piece of felt fabric and I just cut it and shaped it for the heel. And we're going to glue that onto the heel area also, just to make sure that it continues to be comfortable. And all you need to do is, once again, is put your little glue here. And place your felt right on top of that. You're going to continue to let this dry, and then later what you'll do, as I said before, you're going to take this piece, put glue on this side and glue on the inside, and you're going to slide it inside the shoe like so, and that's what you're going to have. Okay, now as I said earlier, we have these little tabs that we put on the heel right on the sides, and these tabs, what we're going to use them for is to do the ribbon at the anklet or at the ankle that we can tie around the ankle that gives you more support in the shoe. And the ribbon I got from I purchased from Hobby Lobby, and this is a nice ribbon. It's actually a little stiffer than I thought it would be, and that's great too. And this is a gross grain ribbon, and as a matter of fact, when I bought it, I'm always looking for a deal, so I was able to get this for half price. So I only paid like $1, maybe $1.50 for it. So what we're going to do is take the ribbon and we're going to slide it through the little tabs here. And depending on how you want to tie the shoe, if you want to tie the shoe where the bow is in the back, or you want to tie the shoe where the bow is in the front. And actually I cut off about 50 inches of ribbon. May not need that much. It depends on how full you want your bow to be in the front or the back of the shoe, and that's entirely up to you. So I'm just basically sliding it through the tabs that I had sewn already. And yes, I was able to find black and white striped ribbon just like the shoe. And once you slide that in, and basically you can wrap it back around the front, crisscross in the back, and tie your bow. And I'll show you exactly how the shoes look on my feet. So are you ready for the final results? So here it is. I really think they came out nice, and I hope you like them too. So as you can see on the front part of the shoe, this is a special embellishment that I did. And also, if you look inside the shoe, the inner sole, that's also part of the sari fabric that I used to cover the inner soles of the shoe. Now here's the leather sole that I glued on. And I've taken apart a lot of women's shoes, and they've been glued on and not stitched. And here's the heel. If you want to see how I attached it, go back to video 2. And here are the straps that I attached. And what I'll do is I'll put them on so you can see how they look. Here we go, our first view of the shoes. This is the front view. And now notice the angle, the side view, and you get a look at the straps also. I like the front view of these shoes. I like the contrast of colors. The fuchsia, the gold, the green. It makes a nice contrast with the black and white. Now this is a side view of the shoes, another side view. And you notice that the bows are tied in the back of the leg. Well, what's nice about the shoe is that you can also tie the bows in the front of your leg as well. Ladies, this is the final view of the shoes. I hope you like it and give it a thumbs up. And make sure you check out part 1 and 2. This has been Chris of Creations by Chris. And I hope you like my video on making shoes at home. And if you like it, give it a thumbs up and subscribe. If you have any questions, you can message me below, or you can reach me at Facebook or Instagram.